This time on ChinnyVision, 50 MSX1 games. Welcome to ChinnyVision, the channel that reviews games on real hardware. From the Amstrad CPC to the BBC Micro, Atari ST, VIC-20, Amiga, Sega Master System, PC, all the stuff we cover. And today I'm going to review 50 MSX1 games, well, to the best of my knowledge, they're MSX1 games, in hopefully under 10 minutes. The 50 games today are selected at semi-random, some I wanted to put in and some I just chose, completely at random really. Nearly all of the capture today will be coming from my MSX2 Sony hits bit, but if you see the little icon like this in the top right corner of the screen, that means it's been captured from a Toshiba HX10 by Composite. So just to give you a little bit of variety, because of course there are so many MSX models, I'd like to feature all of them, but that would be impossible. Anyway, on with the countdown. A step above the other home versions, Ping Pong is still one of the most fun representations of the sport on any micro. But be warned, this version is harder than the UK Imagine versions. Showing its age compared to the other versions, Choplifter is still a lot of fun on the MSX systems. Fantasy Zone makes it to the MSX. The problem is that with the machine's limited palette, both your sprites, bullets and the enemies get lost in the background. Shame, as otherwise it plays pretty well. Keystone Capers gives you some cops and robbers action on your MSX. Plays as well as it should, but oddly manages to look less attractive than the 2600 version. You might not know that Ultimate Play the Game released games on the MSX. Well, they did, and Alienate is regarded as a classic, but to be honest was knocked off its throne when Head Over Heels arrived. Cassio World Open is an entertaining golf game that's surprisingly advanced for its time. The last of the Magic Knight games and arguably the most polished. The menu system seems clunky today but was innovative at the time. For just $2.99, Stormbringer is rather excellent value, and it does use the system's hardware sprites. F1 Spirit is a stunning top-down racer for Konami. It blows away the competition. Yes, the scrolling is a little jerky, but once you get into the game you won't even notice. Even has a proper head-to-head two-player mode, a must-play and a must-own. An average shoot-'em-up. In such a crowded field on the MSX, why bother playing this? Manic Miner is a faithful port of the legendary Spectrum game, right down to the colour clash. Track and Field is the game Decathlon ripped off, and it's far more polished than any version of that game. Sadly, however, your joystick is still at risk as there's far too much waggling. Twinbee is a port of the Penguin-based Q-'em-up from Konami. Rather basic compared to later efforts, but fun to see where it all began. Kung Fu is a port of a Japanese arcade game. Not so much Kung Fu as actually just jumping on the baddies. Slightly reminiscent of Shaolin's Road, but not as much fun. The Untouchables were one of the biggest games of '89, and Ocean ensured a port was made to the MSX for the lucrative European market. Sadly, it's a straight port from the Spectrum converted in probably a weekend. There's no optimisation, but it remains a decent multi-stage game from the Manchester software house. At the time, Paradius was a game of legend in the UK that you only ever saw in the pages of computer magazines. Well, unless you had an import shop nearby. Like most side-scrollers on the system, screen movement can be jerky, but you'll be amazed by the colour and size of the big end-of-level baddies. It's a must-play. Collect the cheese, avoid the cats in this compelling if super difficult arcade platformer. It's Funky Mouse by Zapcor. Yes, you've seen it all before, but it still has charm. I imagine, get it, you were expecting a clumsy Spectrum conversion, but you'd be wrong. This port of Arkanoid to the MSX is quite superb. Two brothers seek to destroy each other with devilish spells, but that's enough about the Pickford brothers. For some, Plock on the SNES is the highlight of their careers, for others it's Retrix. For me, it's Feud, and the MSX gets a superb port with all the charm of the Spectrum version with the CPC music. Lovely stuff. Le Mans by Electric Software has large graphics, but it's basically totally unplayable. Other cars pass you in the blink of an eye, and you'll be out front with ease. Drive your juggernaut down the roads of America in American truck. Surprisingly fun and well implemented in just an 8K cartridge. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Yes, you heard me right, that's the name of the game, Hero Turtles. Slightly lackluster port of the rather lackluster NES original. It's just a 20% slower port of the Spectrum version. Doesn't hold much appeal today, really. Think track and field, but in a circus. Circus Charlie has enormous charm, but requires split-second timing only a CRT can really provide you with. Spy vs. Spy 2, otherwise known as the one where you're on an island, not the Isle of Wight. For me, the highlight of the series in the MSX gets a very solid port. A little slow compared to the 64, but full colour graphics and no Spectrum code in sight. Nothing to do with the Beatles. Yellow Submarine sees you beneath the ocean waves, blasting enemy subs and ships. Rather basic and old hat, but enjoyable. Rock hard puzzle game from Cassio. Ice World sees you smashing ice and baddies with your hammer, but it is incredibly difficult. We're probably about halfway now. Some names are going past on the screen. Those are the people who make ChinnyVision possible by supporting our Patreon. If you support us on there, you get previews and other stuff. So come on and join the fun and help make more stuff like this possible. And before we resume the countdown, if you're looking for a Christmas gift, then ChinnyVision pens and travel mugs are available at ChinnyVision.com. Buy something and support this kind of lunacy you're seeing here. Back to the countdown. If Penguin Adventure isn't a game that doesn't fill your heart with joy and wonder, then you are watching the wrong channel. It's a million miles away from the rubbish the MSX had on tape. Utterly and totally charming. Not the kung fu you are expecting, as everything is different, but the core gameplay remains the same even if it doesn't mirror the original arcade game. Rockford arrives on your MSX in Boulder Dash, and it's everything you'd wish for. For quite a while, Matchday 2 held the crown as the best 8-bit football game, in some people's eyes. The MSX version is a straight Spectrum port, and while it has all the gameplay options, today it just feels a little bit turgid. Zaxxon on the MSX looks the part, but the scrolling takes some getting used to. As Chummy the Mouse, you have to clear the levels of food. The more you eat, the larger and slower you get, but you get increased firepower. It's good platformer fun. Serve the public trust, protect the innocent and uphold the law. The Gallop No. 1 Robocop arrives on the MSX via a direct Specky port, which is fine, as the Specky version is a classic, but why not tidy it up a bit for the MSX, Ocean? Not so much Champion Soccer as Beezer Holmes League Soccer. Misses the goal wider than Ronnie Rosenthal against Aston Villa. If you don't think Nemesis is a challenge on the MSX, then try Salamander. Essentially the same engine but with more polish and the difficulty turned up to 11. Well, 12 actually. Is your MSX haunted? Are you Paul Gannon? Then call the Ghostbusters. Everything you'd expect from the game aside from no sampled speech. Road Fighter is a basic top-down road survival game. Reach the finish without running out of fuel. Limited appeal given you could be playing F1 Spirit. Nemesis, or as is known today Gradius, is the must-own game for the MSX1 systems. Yes, Konami did better shooters after this and you've already seen them, but it's still an arcade quality game. Look past the dodgy 8-pixel scrolling and you've got something really special. Pac-Mania is a solid enough game that you can look past it's an example of a lazy specky port. MSX2 owners of course get a superior Namco version though. Not Thriller, Chiller for legal reasons. Collect the crosses and rescue your girlfriend from the coda of the CPC version. This uses the machine's hardware spikes to give you fluidity the CPC version lacks. Find your way out in the dark by collecting keys in Midnight Building. However, you only get a brief look at each level before darkness descends. Good fun, polished, but terminally annoying music. The MSX got a shonky Spectrum port of Operation Wolf via Ocean, spot the pattern. But in 2006, Toybox changed all that with a properly coded version. Aside from some rather bad sprite flicker, it's all here barring the light gun. When Ultimate were looking east to start coding for consoles, Gunfight was so good Japan was looking west. Catch the outdoors and get belty in this 8-bit classic that ended up on cartridge. Star Maze is a modern homebrew conversion of the game that came built into the Master System. The owners of many systems might claim they have the best version of Chucky Egg. I might be being controversial here, but the MSX seems like it might just have cracked it. Sky Jaguar is a limited and difficult shoot-'em-up from Konami. In Colony, you grow mushrooms for cash, generate power and build fences to keep aliens out of your colony. Stop them eating your crops at all costs. Open-ended gameplay means you can play this for hours, but in 40 minutes you'll have seen it all. A proto-Bomberman game from Hudson Soft. Eric and the Floaters was converted to the Spectrum, but this is where it started off. Showing its age, but it's good fun. Dig Dug is a perfectly serviceable version of the arcade machine, but its single-colour sprites rather let it down. Dragon Ninja sees Imagine palm off MSX owners with another substandard port of a solid arcade game. A Japanese arcade game getting a rubbish conversion from a UK publisher? I just can't credit it. Afterburner wasn't much cop on the Spectrum, but at 20% slower, it's even worse. Stop the clock! There we go, that's another 50 games reviewed in under 10 minutes, and hopefully it will give you some ideas of games to play on your MSX. It's not all dodgy Spectrum ports, you just need to dig a little bit further with the MSX, out of your comfort zone, to find some of those Japanese cartridge games and also the decent UK ports of games like Stormbringer where they use the machine's capabilities. Thanks for watching, we'll do this again sometime. ChinnyVision is back next Thursday evening with another set of reviews. See you soon.